Today, we look at the new Tanium connector from Microsoft Intune.
Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. We are your hosts, Ashley McGlone.
And Alex Miller.
For years, Tanium could only show you data from endpoints that run a Tanium agent. But that is changing, and it's here.
Today, we're here to show you some new tricks that will blow your mind. Please help us welcome Tim back to the show. Tim, please introduce yourself for those who haven't met you yet.
Tim Mittner. I'm a product manager here at Tanium. I work on the endpoint management space. I've been at Tanium for quite a while, close to 8 years or so. Worked on many different products over the years, but I'm currently working on a few different things, including what we're calling our endpoint expansion initiative. And that's like bringing in outside data that we couldn't traditionally see within Tanium into Tanium as native attributes. And the first capability around that is our Tanium connector for Microsoft Intune.
Tim, sounds like you're a very important guy, much more important than me. Thank you so much for joining us today. Give us the big picture here. This isn't a situation where the Tanium client can be installed on mobile devices yet, correct?
You are correct. The Tanium client cannot be installed on mobile devices. So what we've done is we recognize that as IT administrators, as a CIO, a CISO, you're responsible for securing and managing many different types of devices. Some of those devices are things that can traditionally run the Tanium client. So things like Windows devices, Mac devices, Linux devices, those can all run the Tanium client, but they're a smaller subset of the overall ecosystem of devices or items in your environment that you have to have visibility into, that you have to secure. And so we're starting to bring in those other devices into the Tanium console to make them look just like the rest of the devices that you currently manage within Tanium. So for the Tanium connector for Microsoft Intune, we are bringing in those mobile devices and making those mobile devices native into the Tanium ecosystem, just like any other Tanium client device, even though they are not running the Tanium client.
Tim, that sounds fantastic. So what does that mean for, I've been here 5 years, I've been in the console plenty. So what does that mean for the like interact syntax that I've been using all these years? Like, a question like get computer name from all machines. What happens now? What does that look like?
Pretty exciting. This is the first time since I have been here, and I've been here for about 8 years, that we've actually changed the language syntax a bit within Interact. So you can see here on my screen that we now have a new language. So from all entities. So I can do get computer name from all entities, and an entity could be any number of providers that we're accessing. So think of a Tanium client as a provider, or think of Microsoft Intune as a provider. And we will have additional provider types that we will be releasing to expose additional types of endpoints that you don't have visibility into today.
Wow, that is so cool. But how about what type of Microsoft licensing do our customers need for this type of integration?
The licensing on the Microsoft side is you just basically need access to Intune. There are many different ways to get access to Intune. If you have a E3 or E5 for Microsoft 365, you'll get access to Microsoft Intune. You can actually buy Intune standalone in some cases as well. So as long as you have any access to Intune whatsoever, then you can perform this integration and start bringing that data into Tanium.
So, Tim, you just answered what Microsoft licensing is required. What about the Tanium side? Is this something that everybody gets, or do you have to have some special package of licensing to get this?
Yeah, that's a great question. in order to get this functionality, you need to be on the Tanium Endpoint Management solution. And so if you have the Tanium Endpoint Management solution, then you get this functionality. Now, the key thing here is you don't have to pay a license for each Intune endpoint that comes in. All you need to have is access to that solution. On individual modules, what that means is you'll need deploy, patch, and performance. Those are the three modules that make up that solution. And so if you're mid-cycle and you're missing one of those modules, just buy one of the modules and then you get access to that solution and you can bring in any number of Tanium endpoint of Intune endpoints. Like there we have a customer today that has they're only licensed for about 5,000 Tanium clients, but they are currently synchronizing over 15,000 Intune devices into their console today. So they are separate, but you get full access to all of those devices just with that endpoint management solution.
So I'm going to ask a really obvious question here, Tim. Why would people need both Tanium and Intune? Don't they both do the same thing? I know they're not the same, but I want people to hear it from you.
So there are different use cases that people will have. So Intune is a great tool for managing mobile devices. It provides some management capabilities for Windows endpoints. Um, we provide some additional value on top of what Intune provides. Like for example, one of the things that we're hearing from our customers is like, hey, we've got a lot of different Intune tenants. So many customers have more than one Intune tenant. And so currently what they would have to do is open up multiple Intune consoles in order to get visibility across all of their devices. So one example is we had a customer that has four Intune tenants. So getting visibility across all those tenants is really difficult. Also, when you look at doing things like deploying patches or deploying software or deploying policies, I now have to replicate that across all of those different Intune tenants for management capabilities. You can really leverage in this particular case what Intune does best in terms of managing the mobile operating system using the MDM protocol. But for things that require a bit lower level operating system access or scale better across your entire enterprise, this is where we really come into play.
A follow-up question there then. So Intune and Tanium both have agents on the same endpoints in some cases. So are we bringing in like all the devices that Intune manages or just mobile?
Yeah, great question. Not yet. We're not yet bringing in all of the devices. Currently, what we are bringing in are mobile devices only. So we're bringing in what would be your iPhones, your iPads, your Android devices, your Chrome OS devices. So things that currently cannot run the Tanium client. Those are the devices that we are bringing into the Tanium console.
So you said Chrome OS. Does that mean we're bringing Chromebooks in now too?
Absolutely, yes. So as long as you've got a Chromebook configured in your Intune environment, we will see that Chromebook within the Tanium console as well.
Yeah, I know we've had that request out there for years. People have wanted in educational environments, maybe different medical environments where they've got those devices. That's been a popular request.
That's absolutely fantastic, Tim. That's good to hear finally coming around. Would you mind walking us through the integrations gallery experience for the Intune connector for everyone watching today?
For those of you who may not be familiar with the integrations gallery is something built into the Tanium console that really showcases or highlights the integrations that we have with our partners. So here on the screen, you can see we've got integrations with Microsoft Security Copilot, Azure VM extensions. We've got integrations with ServiceNow. We have integrations with one of our partners called ScreenMeet for doing screen sharing. So these are all partner integrations that we have. You will notice here that there is a new one that is now available called Microsoft Intune. So if I go into Microsoft Intune, if you were to go into this for the very first time, you would see this screen. So an about page that tells you a little bit about the integration. You can see, hey, this extends visibility, it streamlines reporting and improves your asset management. And there's this great little video over here on the side that you can click and watch as it walks through a demo of the different capabilities. So it's a nice little in-product training to show you what this does. Down here at the bottom, you can see, hey, this is going to bring in a new dashboard called mobile devices. There's a number of new reports that are now available, such as Android devices, Chrome OS, and iOS devices. And you can see here that there is some Tanium content. So 13 plus sensors, and I'll explain where that plus comes in a little bit later. So 13 plus sensors are brought into this environment. So if you have not configured this before, up in the upper right-hand corner, there will be a little enable checkbox. So you'll just need to check that checkbox and that will turn on the capability of the connector. Once that is enabled, now you have to actually configure it. You have to connect it up to an Intune environment. You do that over here on the configuration page. So this is where you connect it up to your Intune tenant. As you can see here, we have a couple of different tenants inside of here. You can connect up to 20 tenants right now with the connector, and that was a kind of an arbitrary number that we picked, and we are expecting to expand on that. I challenged our customers when we first started talking about this. Like, if you have a need for over 20, let me know. And nobody did until someone finally did. So I ran into somebody with over 200 Intune tenants, which is just crazy. You can have those different Intune tenants inside here. Now, adding an Intune tenant is not that difficult. You just click on Add Instance here. You give it a name. You give it a tenant name, and then you give it the tenant ID, the application ID, and the client secret. Now, this is all information that you can get from your Azure environment, and our documentation will walk you through the steps that you need to do in order to create the client ID in order to get access to this. You have got basically two choices. You can give our ID basically read access to everything, or you can give it write access to certain actions. And so I'll get into the actions in just a bit. Once you've added this in, you can verify the connection. It will go out and verify the credentials that it can connect into your Microsoft tenant, and then you save it. When you save it, you'll see it start to show up here under your instances. After that is configured, you'll start to see these records getting synchronized in your environment. So in this particular case, I've got two environments. One's got 9 devices in it, one's got 1 device. Now, the very first time that you configure this, it will do a full sync of all of your mobile devices that's visible within Intune into Tanium. So we can now see that. And then after that, we will do a sync every 2 minutes looking for devices that have changed. So anytime a device has checked into the environment, usually a device checks in because something changed that it needs to report on. We will see that and we will start grabbing those deltas, those changes, and bringing those in. So even though Intune is not necessarily a real-time platform, Tanium is bringing in that data from Intune in about as real-time as you can get. So it's generally within 2 minutes of a change that is occurring on Intune, we're bringing that data into Tanium. You can see down here all of the synchronization that occurs, whether it's a full sync or an incremental sync. You can have charts. And then you can start to see that hey, I can see I've got a total of 10 synced devices. And then I can immediately open my Microsoft Intune console directly from here. So we give you an on-ramp back to that. Now, if I go over here to Tanium content, I can see some of the built-in content that we're shipping. So some built-in dashboards and reports that are part of that. So let me go ahead and click into my mobile devices report here. And so this is a device. This is a report that shows me all of the mobile devices that we have synchronized from Intune. So I've got a total of 10 endpoints inside of here. And so I've got by an OS platform, I've got 6 Androids, I've got 2 iOS, and I've got 2 Chrome OS devices. I can see all the different operating system versions here, all the different Android operating system versions, iOS, what all the manufacturers are for all of these, and all of the models. And what's nice is this is just a standard Tanium report. So I can do things like drill down into it. So I can say, give me a view of all of my Android devices. And so now it's pulling up all of the Android devices that I've synchronized from Intune. And so you can see here, I've got a few. This one's running Android 15. It's a Samsung device. I can see the model that it is. And since it is acting like a Tanium client, I can do things on it like endpoint details. So if I click on endpoint details, I can see when this device was last seen, what the name is, who the primary user is, the serial number, the manufacturer, and so on. And then that allows me to then click on view details. And then this takes me into the single endpoint view. So the single endpoint view gives us visibility into the things that are going on this device. And it's scoped down to just this particular device. So I can see that, hey, this is a company-owned device. I could see information about phone numbers if it was available. I could see serial number. And so this gives me visibility into this device at a single endpoint level.
I mean, I just gotta stop and say, wow. People have been asking this for so long, and we're here. Like, this is it. We're seeing it in the Tanium console side by side with workstations and servers. Now we've got all these other devices. And what's interesting to me is, okay, I can get computer name from all entities now, kind of thing. But these are different types of data. We're not going to be
Yeah.
looking at necessarily, free memory, free disk space type, I don't know, sensors. I don't know what, like, there's different things about these devices that, like an IMEI number that you wouldn't have on
Yeah.
a PC, right? So you've got
Yeah.
the single endpoint view, pulling in all this data from different tenants, aggregated right here side by side. And you got your handy little single endpoint view in the top of the console there, where you can just click and put in the first few characters of a device name, and it takes you right in. There's so many different ways even to get to this.
Um, if we go into sensors, and I didn't come back to this. So the reason why it says 13 plus is we have 13 sensors that we've provided. Plus, we've augmented the capabilities of several of the sensors, and so we've added new capabilities. And so, if I do a search, like you had said previously, for IMEI, and I go into that sensor. Um, and I go down here, you can see that there is now new option here for Microsoft Intune. And so this is a read only, but it gives you visibility into what we're actually mapping to from an attribute level back on the Intune side. So this is pulling the IMEI attribute from this. And so when you look at something like a computer name field or serial number field, so let me just pull up the serial number. In this case, it's called computer serial number. In this case, I've got my Windows code, I got my Linux code for getting the computer shell number, but there is a Microsoft Intune side here that's just pulling the attribute called serial number. So I can ask this one question, computer serial number, and it will return back all the results from all of my Tanium endpoints that are running the Tanium client, as well as all of the Intune devices, all within that single question.
Such a simple and elegant solution for like retrofitting. I love that.
Yep. Yep.
And so you said this visibility, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you said you can even take action on these.
Yeah, yeah, great lead in, Ashley. With some recent capabilities, we are adding in the ability to take action from a single endpoint view level. So if you think about this, if I want to give access to, say, my first or second level support, and they can get visibility into the device, they can see information about that device, but if I want to take action on that device, I can start to do so. So you can see here in this upper right-hand corner, I have a deploy action. And so when I show that, it's showing me actions that are available for this. Now, this is not running a Tanium action per se. Essentially, what this is doing is it's proxying the request over to Microsoft Intune in order to perform that action on that device, and then we can track that. So I can do things like I want to do a synchronized device, and it gives me a confirmation like, are you sure? And then it then takes me over into action history for this particular device. And so you can see here that in this particular case, I did a synchronized device on this, and it was initiated by me. In this case, I am Tanium. If you were logged onto this, it would show your username information on side of here. It wouldn't just say Tanium. And you can see that it sent this information to Microsoft Intune and when it was sent to the device. So this table down here at the bottom shows me everything that Tanium did to that device and the details of the user who did that action. The view at the top shows me all of the activity from an Intune perspective that has been done to that device. Let's say you're managing the device through this Tanium console. However, Alex is managing the device through the Intune console. And so if Alex does a restart device from the Intune console, I want to be able to see that that action was done within Tanium. So I come here to this action history. I see this Intune device action status, and that restart device will show up inside of here, even though it was performed in the Intune console.
Oh, really? That's a good, because I was just thinking that question as you were describing it. So this is not just actions initiated from Tanium; it's also from the Intune set. So it's synchronizing actions from both consoles. Wow.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So if I want to do something like send a custom message to this device, so I'll just give this
Oh, no way.
cuss.
We can do pop-up messages on people's devices.
Yes, you can
Oh
do pop-up
man.
messages to their phone. So it's a great way, like if somebody is being really uh, lazy about updating their phone to the latest version of iOS or Android, they're like, hey, you need to update. You can start nagging them with these custom notification messages.
Oh man, that takes
Uh,
me back to the Windows days of like the net
it
command when you could
does.
send message. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
this is great. So we got we got end user notification as a for for workstations, right? Now we've got it for phones. Oh, this is great, man. This is
Yeah.
you could have some nefarious fun with that.
So you can see here, we sent that custom notification to this device. And then we should start to see that here. I think this device is actually offline, so we're not going to see the action pop up on this on the Intune side. But to get the idea, now we kind of classify actions in two different manners. We have what we call a standard into action, and we have what's called a high impact action. So if we go back over to my integration console, and I look here under my configuration, you can see all of the RBAC roles that are available. And so there are two specific RBAC roles that you'll need to assign. So by default, a normal Tanium user will not have the ability to perform these Intune actions. So you can grant them the ability to do Intune action user or high impact action user. So what is the difference between those two? So if I go back to my single endpoint view, if I'm doing things like reset passcode or remote lock or restart device, those are just standard actions and something that you might want to grant access to your first or second level support for troubleshooting purposes. The top two are a little bit more impactful, so we call them high impact actions. So things like wipe device or retire device, which would remove all of the Intune data off of that particular device, those have some consequences on the device. So you may want to limit who has the ability to do a, say, full device wipe or retire device on those systems.
So RBAC, yes, we have we ship RBAC with things now. We've been doing that for a long time, but you just have to
Yep.
say RBAC in the episode somewhere, right?
Right.
Yes, this is RBAC. So I have a question then. So classically in Tanium, we've done things like tagging to
Yeah.
define computer groups. So I'm guessing here, like the RBAC, the computer groups that we would manage, in this case, entity groups, device types, maybe there's some kind of sensor that's going to give us some of this data that we can then filter on for these groups to manage the devices.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that you apply RBAC to the machines that are visible is just like standard Tanium. So it's through what's called management rights within Tanium. And you assign management rights based on computer groups. You create computer groups based on queries that you do within Interact. So all of this data needs to be exposed, needs to be available within Interact. So I can do something similar, like give me a computer name and operating system from all entities. But we've got a few things that we can kind of filter this on now. So I can say where um, the provider type contains Intune. And so this will give me all of my Intune devices that I've synchronized over. Um, now, keep in mind, earlier I showed you that you had the ability to set up multiple Intune connections to different Intune tenants. And so what we often see is that customers will want to grant rights to specific machines based on which Intune tenant that they were connected to. That is possible to do as well. So I'm going to do um, and provider name here. And you can see here that 9 of my devices came from this particular provider name, and one of those devices came from the other provider name. So I can create computer groups for a specific provider name and assign that as management rights for my users. And so they'll only have visibility and potentially actions for those specific devices.
So if I'm a global enterprise and I've got a distributed help desk and I need certain tenants of Intune to be managed globally, regionally, things like that, we can accommodate all that with the filters. Another question. So forever in Tanium, we've had sensors like is Windows, is Linux. Do we have something like is iPhone or something like that that we can pull out just like it looks like we can say like OS operating system contains iOS or something like that. But do we have a way to any like these other sensors? What's available there?
We have a new one. It's called
Oh.
entity type. So entity type in this particular case will bring back that this is a mobile device. And so that allows you to distinguish those. But also stay tuned, like the this, we're still doing development work on this, and so there is going to be a lot of additional sensors that we are going to be releasing in future releases, all the way up through the end of the year. So stay tuned, and you'll see a lot more different types of data come in that you can also use to further limit your groups for RBAC.
Tim, that's absolutely fantastic. I keep thinking back to these days. You know, we preach on the show a lot. We preach single pane of glass, things like that. But I think back to about a decade ago when I was working behind a help desk, and I'm like, man, this would have been really useful other than opening my 16 different tabs and trying to administer all this stuff. But hey, with Converge coming up right around the corner, can you give us any teasers on like what labs are in the works for this Intune integration?
There's actually a great lab specifically for integrating Intune with Tanium. So you can sign up for that. It will cover this capability as well as other capabilities. Sign up for that. There will be more information on the main stage about this integration as well. And there will be some additional breakout sessions. So look for breakout sessions on the Microsoft partnership, and you'll get to learn more information about this as well as all of our other Microsoft integrations.
Yeah, I heard that code language like through the end of the year. We're recording this in October, so we all know what that means. We're going to hear more in November in Orlando. We hope we can see you there. So Tim, this is wow. Whatever. Anything else? I know we've covered a lot of ground here.
We
Um,
have
yeah, what are you hearing from customers who are doing this already? I know we have some early adopter type customers. What kind of feedback have you gotten from them?
like the biggest feedback is like that they love that they're getting that single pane of glass. They love they're getting that visibility. It solves a big reporting challenge that they have today. The other thing that I did not necessarily cover, we do have the ability to then take this data and synchronize this data into ServiceNow through our asset integration. So that is there if you want to now bring in your mobile devices. So it's actually pretty shocking to me that um, most of our customers are not putting any mobile devices inside of ServiceNow at all. And so it's a big visibility gap for them that they're not currently tracking. And so this gives us a way to bring that data into ServiceNow. One lesson that we learned is that we wanted to bring these devices in, but we learned very quickly that the customers don't necessarily want these devices into ServiceNow immediately. And that was the problem we had initially is we turned this integration on and like all of a sudden additional like 4,000 devices showed up in ServiceNow and they're like, what? So we do allow you to plan for that a little bit better. So inside of assets, there is now in a setting down here called Tanium Entity Providers, and you can choose I want to enable this to be synchronized into ServiceNow just by checking that button, and it will then start synchronizing that data.
So people kind of woke up and all of a sudden, hey, wait, we've got all this stuff in service now. I just have to talk about speed for a second. Tanium is
Yeah.
known for speed, right? I've
Yep.
heard internally that we had some customers with tens of thousands of Intune
Yep.
devices that were synced in. Like, how long did it take for those to show up in the console?
Yeah. I think the biggest that we've had so far is just under about 70,000 devices that we've synchronized in. We synchronized those into the console in under 2 minutes and brought that in. And then from that point on, then it's basically doing an update every 2 minutes to bring in data that has changed or shifted about those devices.
All right, so all right, I just have to spell this out for people for a second. All right, we're coming from spreadsheets, right, where people have, and classically, you can solve every problem with duct tape or a spreadsheet, and so everybody in IT is used to working with spreadsheets for all this stuff. So you think, okay, I need a report of all the devices across all these tenants, and I want to see it in ServiceNow. So literally in 2 minutes, you can be up and running with Tanium, pull all this in from multiple tenants into Tanium, and then pump it into ServiceNow, which is also blazing fast. And so, literally, before lunch in your day, you can already have reports and these dashboards lit up for your management. And I mean, just like, wow. I mean, like, where's the fireworks? Like, we need the t-shirt cannon. Like, there's got to be some celebration, a special cake, pop a cold one. I mean, this, this is amazing. Wow.
Tim, absolutely fantastic work. This is some incredible stuff. I've been at Tanium 5 years, so I've watched just iteration after iteration, and it just keeps getting so much cooler. Um, but for those watching, as always, we have many resources linked below for your reference, documentation, and there's even a free Converge Pass promo code down there. Please check it out. As Ashley said already, we hope to see you in Orlando next month. Please come find us. Ashley will be there. I'll be there. Jesh will be there. Come find us early. We may have a special surprise for you.
Tim, thanks again. This is just amazing, mind blowing. And we're only, like Alex said, we're only going to get more at Converge. So thank you. And folks watching, we want to see you at Converge in Orlando. And then we want to see where this goes. There's more coming, like he said. So until next time.
Go Tanium.
We can deliver this in a flat scientific way, but it's like, this is insane
You're
to
right.
get
Yeah.
all this in one place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about when I was at that help desk on a military base, and if someone's phone wasn't updated, I had to go find them. Right?
Yeah.
Like totally different day and age, man.
My
You're
head
gonna
just
make
exploded, man.
you're gonna make ops team people weep tears of joy.
That's the goal. Yeah.